I've got with me in studio our guest for today, who is the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party Civic, as well as the incumbent Vice President of the Government of Guyana, none other than Mr. Bharrat Jagdeo, who's here to have a discussion with us about the final leg of these elections and his thoughts on where we're going from here. Good afternoon to you, welcome.
Good afternoon.
All right, so it's been an interesting campaign over the past couple of months. And I want to start off by giving you the opportunity to reiterate uh, to the voters why they should choose your party to lead them for the next 5 years.
So, first of all, I'm really happy to be back here and to thank your listenership for the feedback I got from the last time I was here. They had a follow up on my Facebook page, and many of them sent in comments, and we issued many clarifications of our party's position on those matters. So, I really appreciate the feedback. An element of how we would then translate that into prosperity for our people at the individual level and the community level. It, we have done and calculated the important metrics which are vital for a plan to be sustainable. No other political party has put out a plan with such a depth. And that plan is underpinned by decades long work and detailed documents in every sector. So when you see our manifesto, which is a 70 odd pages document, and we only have 2 pages on infrastructure, we have an infrastructure development plan for Guyana that is 150 pages long, that detail what we want to see happen in the next 5 years from regions 1 to 10. And every other sector has that detailed backup sectoral plan. So we're the only party that has done that. The other political parties talk about spending oil money. That's all they talk about, how much they will give to people. They never talk about wealth creation. They don't even speak about the risks associated with a very volatile world. So what happens if the revenue stream that they want to distribute doesn't materialize? Then we're in serious trouble. And this sort of short-term planning, just a transactional sort of planning, has led to the demise of many countries that have produced oil for decades. So that's the first thing that we ask the voters to look at, our planning capability and the depth of our plans, which differentiates us from any other political party. And without a clear plan, you can't change this country. Without a sustainable plan, you can't ensure long-term prosperity. You have to ensure that it doesn't become ephemeral, that it happens 1 day or 2 years and it disappears, like what has happened in so many other countries because of careful leadership. The second thing is that we have capable leadership to implement such a plan. Time-tested leadership, leadership that has seen the toughest of times and good times too. In our camp, you have people who had to manage an economy when we were bankrupt, we're insolvent. The debt servicing of external debt took up more revenue than we collected in a single year. And we have changed that from an insolvent country that we took over in the 90s to today the most vibrant economy in the world. And this happened even before oil and gas. We returned our country to solvency and prosperity. We have leadership that has been tested in the international arena. Leadership that's been tested in terms of the critical issue of keeping our country safe on our borders intact. In the persons of Irfan Ali, Mark Phillips, and a whole team of people who bring hundreds of years of experience managing things. The two other political parties have never, their leadership has never managed anything of major consequence, not even a department of government. And this is across the entire leadership of the two political parties. So that's the next thing that we talk about. The third issue that we ask people to vote for us on is we're the only party that looks like Guyana today, large-scale party. And it came with a struggle. You know, we were heavily represented in the Indo-Guyanese community, and we got this majority of the Amerindian votes, but we struggled to get Afro-Guyanese to come into the party. That has changed immeasurably since the last elections. Look at the results of local government elections. Look at the campaign now. In South Georgetown, we have teams of 200 persons. We don't need to take leaders in there. These are local leaders who are joined by national leaders, all Afro-Guyanese, who are waging our campaign, going to every home there, delivering the flyers. They're doing this in Linden, in New Amsterdam, right across the country. And not just in Afro areas, but in Indo areas too. You see our crowds, you see our rallies, you see our leadership at the party level, you see the cabinet, and it's reflective of Guyana. And we're the only party that can claim that we have worked on that. We recognize a deficiency in the party, and people have now grown to trust us more, because trust was a big problem. Afro-Guyanese did not trust the PPP. They thought they had been subjected to decades of propaganda that we are racist and you can't trust the future of your children with us. Just imagine today, look at our commitment on education. Everybody knows that education is critical for the future of our country. We kept our commitment, free university education. We promised it in 2020, we delivered it. APNU promised it in 2015, UG fees increased by 35%. We promised 20,000 scholarships, we did 39,000 scholarships. We promised to return the children's grant, we did it. We're paying 8 subjects CXC now for every school child, public or private sector. This is not for Indo-Guyanese kids. And in the next term, each child will get $200,000 per year. We'll increase it. That would be $40 billion per year, only on that promise transferred from the Treasury to the pockets of our parents every year. That's for all of our children. So you know, even if you're Afro-Guyanese or Amerindian Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese or mixed, that you can trust your children's future and education with the PPP, because we'll keep our word. We'll work, we hired more teachers. We have 16,000 teachers now. We had 4,000 more teachers. We've trained more. We trained 6,000 teachers in the last year. You know you can trust us on that because we delivered on our promises. So these are just some of the things. You ask me, why should people vote for the People's Progressive Party? We're not divisive in our rhetoric. We're trying to bring our people together. We have a capable leadership. We have long-term, we have the capacity to plan long-term and implement things. And then we can be trusted because we kept our promise. We are a credible party. We've made promises in 2020, we delivered on them. You judge every other political party that's contesting these elections on those metrics, and you will see they fall way short of the PPP on those matters.
Mr. General Secretary, you made mention of the struggle that the party had in terms of attracting blacks into the camp. And you've been able to cross that hurdle, as can be evidenced from lots of your rallies. What will you say to those who are presumed to be party members or loyalists who may from time to time take to social media to describe those very same black persons as with derogatory terms or phrases? What will you say to them?
This, I say, stop it. You know, people are free in this country. We want every child that is born in this country that has Guyanese blood to grow up with an open mind, to live in a free country, to be able to choose freely their own destiny. Nobody owns any one of us. And the group that vilify people because they have chosen to support the PPP because of performance in government. Many of them have said clearly why they've come to the PPP, because they believe that we are a party that would look out for people regardless of their race. They have made progress under the PPP that they did not make under government that they supported wholeheartedly in 2015. They felt that their voices are heard, that they feel valued in the PPP, unlike in APNU. Listen to Barbara Pilgrim, who grew up as a girl from a baby in APNU. And you listen to her talk about these things. And then you would understand why people, when they come into the PPP, they find a party that is very different from what they heard of. A party that is inclusive and treats people with dignity and respect. And we look out for our people. And so what's wrong in people making those choices? Those who are criticizing the Afro-Guyanese who've come to us, they're a spent force. Nobody pays attention to them anymore. Half of them are losers. Half of them are losers. They've never achieved anything. Even when their party were in government, they didn't have a voice. The same ones who are criticizing others now who come to us. And so I say to people, ignore them. And people are ignoring them because they have nothing to offer anyone in this country. And they believe that dividing our people along race, which served them well in the past, that it will continue to be a potent tool. It will not happen. This country is on a pathway to prosperity that will ensure that every Guyanese benefit. And that's what the PPP is about. So I'd say to them, I don't want to spend too much time talking about those people. You know, the ones who make it their business every day on Facebook to cuss out some other person because that person believes that their family will have a better life under the PPP than under APNU. APNU has no track record, no leadership now, and no credible plan for the future. Yet they want people to blindly support them. And if they don't, then they're subjected to a cuss out.
Our next question I want to raise with you. 5 years ago, you were right in this studio and you spoke about the possibility of revisiting the oil contract. Since you've been in, there's been an about turn.
Yeah.
Would you care to elaborate as to why the change and why you have chosen not to?
Yes, so that's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. It's being spread by people like Glenn Lal and many others. And they've spoken the lie so often that many people repeat it, like you just did, Stan. So if you go back and look at the press conferences I held during the years that we were in opposition, I pointed out that the 2016 agreement was flawed. First of all, the agreement was signed. It was kept hidden for almost a year and a half. No one saw it. We fought to get it in the public domain. They go receive a signing bonus of 18 million United States dollars. Jordan denied that they received the bonus. We subsequently, after about a year, discovered they actually maybe 2 years later, we discovered they did receive the signing bonus, that they placed it in an account that is not the consolidated fund, not a deposit account, or in the central bank balance sheet. Now, kept it outside of the accounting purview of the Auditor General. So for all purposes, it didn't exist. Then when exposed, Winston Jordan said publicly that he thought it was a gift. That's all in the public record. You can Google it. You can find it in the public record that he said they thought it was a gift to whom I don't know. I pointed out the contract, when it was revealed, was lopsided. There were several things wrong with the contract. One is that the royalty rate was too low. It was abysmally low. And especially since they had an opportunity to renegotiate the exploration contract, which was just about to expire, and to sign a production contract. They had all the tools and the bargaining tools on their side, refused to exercise it. I said there was no ring fencing, there was no corporate tax, and several other features I criticized. I made it clear that we will not renegotiate that contract for two reasons. One, there are two clauses in the contract. There is a clause called a stability clause, and then there's a second clause that says that you have to renegotiate the contract only with the consent of the other party. So Exxon had already made it clear they are not interested in renegotiating. So anytime you seek to renegotiate, you end up with a dispute. You have to go to arbitration. So in the arbitration, assuming you succeed in gaining more money, or to change the financial terms or the fiscal terms of the contract, because of the stability clause, you then have to come from the Treasury to compensate Exxon. So if you get $10 more from the contract because of the stability clause, you have to pay from the Treasury $10 back to Exxon by virtue of the agreement you signed. And so I made it clear we will not renegotiate this contract, but we will do several other things. One, a new PSA for any contract outside of the Starbuck block. We did it. The new PSA now has moved the royalty rate from 2% to 10%. We limited the size of the block, so there's no need for ring fencing. We said you can only use 65% of the revenue to go towards cost recovery, and we introduced a corporate tax of 10% when it was zero. We promised to pass a new law, we did that. We promised the Local Content Act, we did that. We promised to revise the NRF, we did that. We promised to go to auction, we did that. So we kept our promises in that sector. 2 weeks before the last election, I was asked this question bluntly. Are you going to renegotiate the contract? And I said, in our manifesto, we put renegotiate / better contract management. And we believe through better contract management, we can get more out of this contract in two areas. In local content, we now have over 1,000 Guyanese companies, because of the law we passed, benefiting from over $700 million US of business per year that they would have not gotten had we not passed the law. Because of the carve-outs for Guyanese companies. Like you can only rent from a Guyanese company, you can only higher transportation sources from a Guyanese company, all of those things. And the second one in the gas to energy project, because of the 50 million cubic of free gas that we're going to get to power the power plant there. The Guyanese public, when the next year, when that comes on stream and our electricity price is cut from 22 US cents per kilowatt hour to 11 cents per kilowatt hour, they would save 350 million US a year in lower electricity bill. And then with cheaper cooking gas, maybe another 250 million per year. That is going to be nearly 600 million US dollars of savings to the Guyanese public from because of better contract management. And so it may not be result in higher revenue to the treasury, but a greater saving to our people. So these were some of the considerations. And then renegotiating. Imagine you have a dispute today with Exxon, and the dispute slows down the entire momentum. We're approaching net zero, where now the world is decarbonizing. Many countries can't even raise money to invest in the oil and gas sector because you have alternative energy sources being introduced every day. It is in our interest to get the investment in now as early as possible and get the resources out of the ground, translate it into development and savings for the future when there's narrow time window. And so our management of the oil and gas sector has been a deliberate one. When you ask the other parties, they're wishy-washy. Norton is saying, oh, we'll do a study to decide whether we'll renegotiate. Nigel Hughes, who's Exxon lawyer, you can never get a clear position. I saw the Win said, we'll renegotiate, but they don't know how, that there's a stability clause in the contract. They don't know anything. If you ask them anything that goes beyond reading a slip of paper, they don't understand it. So, again, this has to be a careful management. So we didn't change our mind on the oil and gas sector. We have been very deliberate in how we manage it over the years.
Just recently, as recent as this afternoon, and just want to have your thoughts on this before we continue. But the High Court recently dismissed the application made to them against GCOM. That is the Foreign Guyana movement did mean that, and it was dismissed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we pointed out it was a frivolous court case, because when you look at the ballots from 2011 and 2015 and 2020, if you don't put up a list of candidates for a region, how do you expect the people of that region to vote for you? And Amanza Walton, who's supposed to be a lawyer, did not put up a list of candidates for 3 regions, and then she said, I should be on the ballot in those 3 regions. And I pointed out at my press conference, and I think GCOM did, look at the sample ballots for every one of those elections. You would have different numbers of parties contesting in different regions based on their submission to GCOM. It was a straightforward case. So I don't see any, I was not surprised by the outcome today. And I think even APNU and none of the other political parties were surprised by the outcome, because it's a nonsensical lawsuit. And it was designed now only to attract attention to our party, I think. Well, they have now consequences because you'd have to pay costs. But on GCOM, we've seen APNU continue with this age-old excuse. They know they're going to lose the elections, and they've been going on with this bloated list. The list was not bloated in 2015 when they won on that list. The list was not bloated in 2020 when we went to the elections with the very same list, and you had 660,000 people on the voters list at that time, but only 460,000 voted. Now suddenly it's become a bloated list. The Chief Justice has ruled on that matter. Everyone has pointed this out. Even as recent as a few weeks ago, the Carter Center said they found no evidence of a bloated list. Nobody found any evidence of Venezuelans on the list that they had claimed before. They didn't produce a shred of evidence, but they continue to make this excuse. And it's all because they know they're going to lose the elections. And you'd lose the elections not because of the list, but because, one, you had 5 years to demonstrate that you were going to work for the benefit of Guyana and everyone in Guyana, and you failed miserably. And now, with the current level of leadership you have, no one would, in their right mind, risk their future or their children's future with you getting into office. That's why their campaign is faltering. And that's why the PPP will win the majority in elections.
Persons are interested in knowing, and you've got a question that comes in from a member of the public. The disciplinary forces are given tax-free bonuses.
Yes.
And what about all public servants? That's a question to you from a member of the public.
So, the discipline services, if I had my way, all Guyanese will get $1 billion per day, and then they don't have to work forever, and everyone would get free money. But that's not how countries work or economies work. And what I can say to the public sector employees is that in 2020 there was a wage bill. Today, that wage bill has grown by $120 billion per year or more. So public service workers are earning $120 billion more per year now than they were earning in 2020. That's 600 million United States dollars per year. Now, that's not a small sum of money. Even APNU cannot dispute that figure. So public service workers have seen some of the benefits of a changing economy translated to in terms of their wages and salaries. We have also increased threshold. The $65,000 and APNU, if you're earning $66,000 a month, you started paying taxes. If you earn $130,000 per month now, you don't have to pay taxes because of the increase in the threshold. We've added $50,000 per month now in tax-free allowance for overtime. $50,000 more for a second job. We have given a credit for 2 kids that you can claim up to $20,000 a month as tax-free on your salary. So public sector workers are benefiting significantly, and they will continue to benefit in the future. This was a question posed to me a few days ago too, because it's not just the public servants, but those part-time workers, the SIP workers, those Amerindian CSOs. They wanted to know too if they'll get better, full-time jobs, and they'll get higher remuneration. Now bring me back to the joint services tax-free bonus. The joint services are called upon to work sometimes way beyond the 8 to 4 job that most of us do in the public service or public sector. They can be in line for months at a time, where they have to leave their families and go and work in times of crises in our country, and they have to sleep in the barracks for sometimes a month or 2. Like now, I think they may already be in line for tomorrow they go in line for the elections, leaving their families at home and then going into work there. They have to protect the state and the people of the country, leaving their families. And so there is a difference between joint services and the others. Not to disparage the work done by our doctors or our nurses and stuff, because they too have benefited and they will continue to benefit. And they work long hours too, and many people in those sectors. But the joint service is a special group.
All right, now Recently, you addressed the issue of domestic violence, and the quote you said, "There's no place for it in Guyana." What persons would like to know is what systems will be put in place, particularly for men who are abused as well as those who are abusers.
So, domestic violence should, or legislation and enforcement should be enforced or action taken against any abuse in the home. So if the men are being abused in the home, then also action should be taken against the perpetrator, if that's a female. But in most cases, in maybe 95% of the cases in Guyana, the victims are women. And so we need to recognize that. As I said recently, that this is medieval, it's barbaric, it has no place in our society, and we have to work culturally to change it and also to make this behavior abhorrent to everyone, from ordinary people all the way to the law enforcement agencies. And the courts have to also play a role in enforcing severe penalties against people who practice this. This cultural shift, because we have done a lot, we've passed laws, etc., we've taken some enforcement actions, we've had setbacks when often the people who are abused come to the state to beg for those who were their abusers. So we've had some action. But to have a cultural shift, we need to do a number of things. We have to support the NGOs who are working in this sector, not just against abuse against women, but children too. Support them heavily. We've done so by greater subventions. We have to continue to do that and give them larger sums of money so that they can continue their valuable work in this area. We have already announced that we want to work with the religious communities, giving them grants directly, the churches, the mosques, the temples, so they can also be another layer in the community that people who are subjected to abuse can turn to, and they can be an agent for behavioral changes among people. And then thirdly, we have to start working in the school at a very young age to enhance the humane nature of people. So whether it's for animals or preventing abuse of women and children or having a more patriotic outlook for our country, these are important values that will serve us well in the future. And that is why we said we're going to reintroduce civic education as a compulsory subject in schools in the next term in office, because we believe through that we can start very young in our classrooms, at a very young age, to start instilling these values in our children, so that only then can you achieve the cultural shift that we all want and anticipate.
You know, and as I have you here, if I could address this, because hosting a morning show here, we have a segment where persons will discuss topics and share their views. And one of the things that came up just about a week ago is persons are of the opinion that based on what they're seeing, why doesn't Guyana bring back some harsher penalties, even going up to the level of the death penalty? I'd like to ask you to address that, because it seems to be a number of persons are asking.
Sure.
To be able to address what is the scourge that is going on.
So one political party has said that they would release all the prisoners if they win the elections. You know, that is the doggies party. And so the death penalty is still on our books. people are still sentenced to death in the country. We have not enforced the death penalty for a very long time. So that is still on our law books. The death penalty is still there. Penalties, it's important to increase penalties by law, but also you have to prosecute people. And that means that the judges and the magistrates, an independent branch of the government, need to also levy serious penalties on the people that are already in the book, the abusers. But our prosecution has been affected for the same reason that I mentioned to you. That even when the police, and sometimes the police, there are many police who don't take a serious view to the matter. You know, people go many times to the police station and make a complaint, and the police don't treat this issue like it's not a serious one, and that has to change. But in cases where effort is made and a case prepared, and it goes to the director of public prosecution and they recommend charges, and the charges are laid, then the family members often come back, including the victims, and harass the state. They don't want to go to court. They don't want the matter to go any further. And in a lot of cases, over 50% of the cases die at that level. So the way you have to tackle this is to ensure that it doesn't happen at all. And that's why the cultural shift, because it's not just enforcing penalties, but working on people's head, that they themselves find this act reprehensible and abhorrent. And they wouldn't even think about solving a dispute in that manner, in a violent manner, that they have other dispute resolution skills. And that requires working on people. And the only way you can work on people is not necessarily through government. That's why you need the NGOs and the churches. They have a better interaction with people. You know, government needs, you need to fix the roads, get the education system going, and sometimes very focus on more getting things done rather than working at mindset changes. That's why we need the whole society to work at this. It's not just a government issue.
But Mr. Jagdeo, I don't know if you have any personal opinion about this. Continue along the same vein. I've seen in some cases, some judges, and there's a particular one that there's some people would say they won't want to ever have their case before because he's serious in levying penalties. But what we've seen on appeal, those penalties are heavily slashed, and in some cases...
Stan, but to my point, we can't answer for the judiciary. This is an independent branch of the government. If we dare to say to the judiciary, you have to impose these penalties, you know what will happen? They would say the executive branch of government is trying to interfere in the independence of the judiciary.
So the most we can... The legislature should strengthen those penalties.
But even when you have strong penalties, their application is at the discretion of the members of the judiciary. So I've seen cases where you have a strong penalty in the law, but minimal sentences are imposed on people. And I've seen this liberal view. People have a restraining order for violence, violent behavior against a woman, and they have maybe even a weapon or so, use a weapon in threatening the person, and then they get released quickly on bail. And I've seen in 2 cases, the person comes out and then you had fatalities resulting from them attacking the person again. So it's a complex issue.
Let's turn to another issue that, of course, is on the minds of most persons: the rising cost of living.
Yeah, sure.
Your government has, over the years, made some efforts to buttress this.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that persons are complaining about is that you've given some leave or some ease to farmers, but the end user is not necessarily
Yeah.
seeing that benefit. You've been paying for lots of fertilizers for farmers,
Yeah, sure.
but they're not really realizing that profit or that saving to the person who goes to the market.
Yes.
What plans are you having in your next term, should you be there, to be able to address this?
So, as you correctly pointed out, there are several things that took place. We saw a massive increase in the price of fuel globally when the war between Russia and Ukraine started. We had 2 years of COVID, and the factories around the world were shut down. The supply chains were disrupted. So to ship a container from China, I dealt with this the last time I was here, to Guyana moved from $3,000 to 20,000 US dollars, a 40-foot container. Pushed up costs. So we looked at 6 areas that affect people's costs. And we said, what are the ones under the control of the government? Electricity prices. So we are subsidizing your electricity bill now to the tune of 80 million US dollars per year. So that from 2020 to 2025, there's been no increase in electricity prices. And so nobody can claim there's a cost of living increase because they had to pay higher electricity rates. Secondly, water rates came down by 5%. We cut the rates by 5%. But we're subsidizing water rates across billions of dollars of subsidy. So there's been no increase in water rates. We have the cheapest diesel and gasoline in the Caribbean now, because on every gallon of gas or diesel you buy, as you're driving home now, or if you have a tractor, a bulldozer, you're a miner or something, and you buy gasoline or diesel for your car, every gallon you buy, there is a 560 Guyana dollars subsidy for every gallon of gas you buy. And that has resulted in us having the lowest gasoline and diesel prices in the Caribbean. So that has kept transportation costs down. In terms of internet costs, because that's a fourth thing, people pay their internet bill. We liberalized telecommunication 1 month after we got into office. We have new entrants, we have new fiber optic cables. Even if you're paying the same rate like before, the services in terms of bandwidth and speed of the internet has grown immeasurably. So you're paying less for bandwidth costs. Mortgages was another area. If you look at the United States election, people were complaining about their mortgage rates went up when interest rates went up. That was when Trump won. In Guyana's case, we subsidized it. It came right down for those who had mortgages. The food prices, as you point out, very different situation. Food prices, even when you're producing more, so take, for example, I give one example that I always use, cassava in Region 3. Cassava in Region 3, around 2020, was about $120 a pound. It's about $120 now at Vredenhoek. But the farmers get $40 per pound in Parika. By the time it reaches Vredenhoek, it gets to about $120 a pound. And then it gets to maybe $150 by Monrepo Market, and it escalates up. And if you go to Massey, probably $200 per pound, right? So the farmers get $40 a pound. And you know, the production of cassava in Region 3 has moved from 3 million pounds per year to 20 million pounds per year. So the normal rule is that when you increase production, you then you get, you supply the market more, prices should come down. That's economics for you. So even when we increase production, here we've seen an escalation in price because of the middlemen in the market. In terms of meat, we're producing more chicken, we're producing more beef, we're producing more mutton now, but the demand has changed so much because when people get wealthier, and they're getting more money now. You see where they're shopping, Marseille, they're going to the restaurants to eat and stuff, many of them. There are those people too. There are lots of poor people too. We still have a lot of poor people, but they eat more meat. The demand in this case is outstripping supply. So any politician who would tell you, and a lot of these things are seasonal, any politician who would say to you, we'll control the price of squash in the market, or corolla, or plantain, they're lying to you. It's a seasonal thing. So how do you address this? You have to give more help to people. So higher wages now could help them to increase their purchasing power. I told you already, public servants are earning 120 billion more per year now than before. The families, the pensioners are getting $20 billion more per year between 2020 and 2025 because we've doubled old age pension. The children, $11 billion more per year because they're getting zero on the APNU with the $55,000 per year they're getting. In the next term, take for example, $40 billion per year will be transferred for the children alone from the Treasury. The pensioners will get another $20 billion per year more. And those on public assistance, and this is something I wanted to talk about because many people contacted me, even as I was coming here. There are people living with disability who not being able to get on the register as yet because some bureaucrat is preventing them from doing this. And I said to some of them, come to see me at Freedom House. In the last few years, I've been there for years. Thousands of people literally have come there. Go to see one of us and we'll make sure the child gets on the register. Because some of these bureaucrats just either don't treat people decently. So those on public assistance, which will go from about $22,000 to $40,000 a month now, they'll get $9 billion a year more. That's $69 billion that will be transferred into people's pockets alone in those three areas. So you have to tackle issues like these costs. If we take away the cost of funding education from the family, when you earn your money now in the future as a Guyanese, you start earning more because of higher paying jobs. The taxation system gets reduced so you can keep more of your money now because that you earn. Then we start funding more and more your children's education. We start funding healthcare more because then you can get even complex operations done by the state. We assist people to get a house lot. In the next term, all of those people who are waiting for their house lots will get their house lots. They will complete the infrastructure for the ones that we're doing now. A lot of people are waiting. They have the letter of allocation. And we'll build 40,000 homes in the next term, 8,000 per year. We've been unable to build a lot of homes now because we promise house lots. But we'll also give people a grant to build and a grant poor people to improve their homes. If we can help you to own a home, if we can then help you to lower the taxes so you can own more a vehicle now, the family's capacity to improve will be vastly enhanced. So we may not be able to control the price of corolla in the market because it's seasonal, but at least people's capacity to do that, to fund these activities will grow. And that's a realistic way. Anybody who tells you differently will just be saying it for the election purposes. So we've identified a whole approach how to tackle this that would result in more money in people's pockets, more help from the government to fund things that they're now funding. So the farmers, you mentioned about the fertilizer that they get, but they too had higher costs. Remember, they had higher costs too because fertilizer prices went up because oil prices went up. And fertilizer is made from oil. So we had to help them offset the cost. We did it for the miners too. We removed the tributous tax for miners, we reduced the royalty rate, we removed the VAT on machinery and equipment. Every sector of Guyana got some help. Every sector, every group, every region of Guyana from 1 to 10 saw changes.
All right, so whilst you're on this, let me just ask, in terms of stabilizing or keeping stable the U.S. Currency, to our currency, what assurances do you have for the
Well, we're the only party that can do this because we have situated our plan in a macro context. And the macro context is that there's a challenge now to ensure that we do not suffer from the Dutch disease, which is a phenomenon experienced by countries that have windfall revenue, the oil and gas producing countries, which ultimately destroy your manufacturing capability, your agricultural capability, your export capability, because with the appreciation of the exchange rate, it changes your competitiveness globally. So what this simply means is that our biggest struggle will not be in terms of a depreciating rate, the Guyana dollar losing value, because we can intervene. We have a capability to intervene and prevent that from happening. The biggest challenge in the future will be to call its appreciation, which is the Guyana dollar strengthening in value, because that can kill off the manufacturing sector. And countries that don't pay heed to this careful balance, that's why if you listen to the advice coming from all the international organizations, the economic ones like the IMF, etc., they speak about preventing the Dutch disease and preventing the exchange rate from appreciation. So we're tackling it carefully. You know what the demand has grown to? The demand has grown from a couple $100 million for foreign currency. Now it runs into billions of dollars. What we have to be careful about is that the Chinese and some of them, they buy gold and they ship it out. We are looking into this. They're shipping that out. We have to make sure that the Trinidadians, they can't find foreign currency in Trinidad. They have exchange control. It takes 6 months, 8 months to get a couple $100. A lot of them we recognize are coming to Guyana now and funding their economic activities from our foreign currency pool. We are very careful about that. That's why the central bank on a daily basis watch these metrics, these variables. We're paying keen attention to them too, to make sure that the system balances and that our system is not abused.
Mr. Jagdeo, one of the greatest resources of any nation is its human resource. How do you feel about the carnage on our roadways, where lots of times lives are lost tragically, and in most cases, sometimes it's many accidents that are avoidable? And is this something that you will be seeking to address?
Yeah. So it is a huge issue. We talk about it. The president met with large groups of people. We've been funding NGOs to work in this area. And we keep building more roads. And you see what has happened. It's not just the carnage on the road. The damage of public infrastructure every day. Like up till last night, they hit down another post that caused a major blackout that I saw along different areas. But coming back to the carnage, we're losing too many of our people on the road. It's one of the highest causes of death in Guyana. So clearly the enforcement, better traffic management, and more rigid enforcement of our laws and increased penalties. But doing it in a way that is even and even-handed. And that is why I've had a lot of complaints about police. You have good police on the road everywhere. You have a great number of good police, but the harassment that people face. So using technology to do this now. So that is, I spoke of this earlier. I don't know if it's on this program, like the speed cameras. and also a lot of electronic tools now, which we're doing now. We're going to put up 4,000 cameras across the country in the communities along our highways with facial recognition software, with the ability to track traffic and to give you a feedback about movements and congestion and all of that. Like we're building a control center for GPL now that will tell us where a blackout is with a smart grid. You don't need to call in to tell us that a blackout is there, and you can find the reason for the blackout immediately. That's under construction now. So too, a traffic management control system that could allow you to do this. But this is something that, again, like with the cultural shift that we need to tackle in terms of domestic violence, we also need our users, the people who use our roads, to do so more safely. The drinking and driving is a major problem along our highways too. And people will go abroad and comply with the law. And the moment they come to Guyana too, it seems as though we're in a very different situation. They think you can do anything here and then stop a policeman and offer him an inducement. That's why with the cameras, I said, if you're a politician, you can't negotiate with the camera. You'll get the ticket. Or you're some big boy, you think you're speeding, you can't stop and harass the policeman, or you can't offer him a bribe because the camera will send the ticket to your home. So that's what I mean by democratizing enforcement tools.
Correct. So, penultimately, let me ask you this.
Yeah, sure.
So, elections are on Monday, and this is, should your party win the elections, what do you say to those others who may not necessarily feel that it is the right thing? And conversely,
It's not the right thing. Yeah, there are a lot.
they feel
Okay.
they decide, well, you've heard and you've seen in the campaign trail,
Yes.
first had their comments, they're not going to take it like that.
Yes, well.
And then conversely, if it is that you do lose, would you give up power?
Yes. Well, that question was answered in 2015. In 2015, the difference between us and APNO was 4,600 votes. And we walked away from the executive power, and there was no violence. And we rebuilt our party, and we came back victorious in 2020. Now, anyone, any person who's been following the campaign would know by now that the PPP will win these elections, hands down. And this is not arrogance. We have kept faith with the people. The energy is high on the ground. We've been campaigning fiercely. We're not taking people's votes for granted. We've been making calls to their homes, asking them to support us. We've been going to their homes with our flyers, and these flyers now have what we did. So we account to them for the last 5 years, and we say, here are the things that we will do in the future for you and your families. And those are now known around the country. They know that no new taxes will be there in the next 5 years. They don't have to worry about any taxation because in the last 5 years, we did not increase any taxes. We kept our promise. So they can rest assured that any Guyanese now with a PPP victory can say until 2030, there will be no new taxes. In fact, they said they will lower income tax, they'll lower corporate tax, they'll lower taxes on vehicles, they'll increase threshold, so they know that for sure because we are credible. We promised it, we delivered it in 2020. They know that, every Guyanese. Secondly, everyone knows that your child will get the 200,000. We're not like a fly-by-night party. They know that your child will get 200,000 per year. The pensioners will go to 60,000 minimum. They will get their transport grant, etc. every Guyanese knows that, including those who are waiting out there, know that only with the PPP in office and with our capacity to plan and give them our track record, that they will get their house lot or they will get help to build a home. Because we have demonstrated this. You've seen it happen over and over and over again with the PPP. Diamond was started, was Canefield. Eccles was Canefield. All of these communities, Fowles on the East Coast was Canefield. You know, Amelia's Ward didn't have they didn't do any work in Amelia's Ward or Block 22 in Linden. We are now delivering 3,000 house lots in those areas. We said, you'll get a grant to help you build, you'll get a grant to help you improve your home, and we'll work to build 40,000 homes. So all those young professionals who have applied and waiting for their plots, because now we'll do 8,000 homes, who are waiting for their homes, because we'll do 8,000 per year, they will rest assured they'll get it. Only credible. They know that. Any person would know that. The people in Sophia called me, just as I was coming here, and they said, are you going to work at improving the access into Sophia? And I said, yes, because we've already said so. We've done all the internal roads, and now we have to widen 4-lane road going into Sophia so that you have ease. It's a huge community. People can come out of it. I got calls from right across the country, that sort of thing. What about the concrete drains in our communities? We said that, street lights, security cameras, etc. They know their communities are going to change. So our promises are laid out there, and they're on a flyer. We've gone to people's home to say, here is what we're going to do. And they know that. Which other political party has done this? And that's why we're saying it's not arrogance that when we say we'll win the elections, it's because we work for people's support. The other political parties, look at them. How could you even think about an Azruddin Mohammed? Azruddin Mohammed, he's done an interview recently last night, and he did it with his own general secretary. He was never done at one press conference, never faced the media, will not come on a program like I'm doing now and talk about policy. He's incapable. They give him a piece of paper, he has a hard time reading it. He reads off the teleprompter, he doesn't even know what he's saying. How could you even think about that? Your 10-year-old child could do a better job than him in articulating a view. And he is contesting for the elections. And look at the team around him. Look at the team. No policy experience, and Brian Max is his candidate. Imagine Brian Max threatening to kill the Minister of Education, a raving lunatic, and that's his candidate, and he has a ton of those on his list. Can you, anybody, even if you hate the PPP, think about putting your child's future in their hands? And as I said before, Norton, what will Norton and Juretta Finance and Mai Paul tell you? They've taken Burnham's party. They've taken a party of Desmond Hoyt and of even Granger and reduce it to this. I don't want to call it a chicken coop, but really, they've really diminished the standing of a once great party. And they have nothing to offer to people. Absolutely nothing to offer. So that's what we're going out there for, to be talking to people on that basis. So now, even if you don't support us, coming back to your original question, even if you don't support us now, you know your children will also be taken care of. I'm hoping people would support us. I'm hoping all the APNU people who have listened carefully, recognize that the PNC failed them in the 5 years, recognize the lack of leadership, and that there's that win is hopeless. What the young people will do with win beyond, just maybe $20,000 that he offers them. And that those people will support the PPP too, because their future will be secure with us. And those who are threatening violence, they would be dealt with by the security forces. We've had to deal with all sorts of things. They know they're going to lose. You look at the rallies, look at the engagement on the ground. When does this clever thing of taking tight shots in a crowd and magnifying it? And the moment you fly a drone over them, then it belies all of what they're doing. They think that the Amerindian vote will damage the PPP. But they fail to recognize that in 2020, in Region 1, we got 66% of the vote. In Region 7, we got 38% of the votes. In Region 8, 43% of the votes. And Region 9, 57% of the votes. So if they're in Region 7 and 8 and 9 and these places, who do you think they're really taking votes from? It's not necessarily the PPP. So they see, every time they see an Amerindian who supports Win or somebody else, they say, oh, look, the PPP is going to lose. We are going to win the elections in a major way. And people know that, and they're supporting us, and we're really grateful for their support. And you can rest assured we'll work for Guyana.
As you wrap up, General Secretary, I came across a notice published whilst we were there. I didn't get a chance to verify it.
No holiday?
About a holiday.
Yes, it was decided that it's the best thing for people. There have been lots of public calls for a national holiday on the 1st of September, and the President has decided that to instruct the Minister of Home Affairs to issue the proclamation. And so Monday the 1st of September shall be a national holiday.
Thanks very much for that, and your closing thoughts. I'll give you a minute to do that.
Yes, well, I want to urge people who are your listeners to think about all of these things carefully. Our country is at a crucial period. The choices we make on Monday will affect our lives, all of our lives, whether we live in Region 1, 7, 6, 4, or any other part of our country. It would affect people of every race. It would affect our children's future. So everyone owes themselves and their family the need to carefully analyze the options before us. And I want to urge you to look at what the People's Progressive Party has done in the last 5 years, under very difficult circumstances, because we had 2 years of COVID. With the achievements we have made in terms of job creation and infrastructure and investment in healthcare and education, and bringing people together and changes in our communities, and think about, with that management capability in a full 5-year term, how much more could be done. Look at the capable leadership that we have that has been tested, unlike any other political party. Look at our detailed plans for the future. That includes people getting help at the grassroots level, poor people getting help, everyone sharing the prosperity. And then, if you look at all of those things, we believe we will be considered favorably. So I want to urge them to support the People's Progressive Party on Monday, the 1st of September. I want to urge people to let's put an end to, for once and for all, these naysayers who believe that our country can't unite and vote along issues line rather than race. And so I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I want to ask them for their support, which is what we have been doing everywhere in the country, asking people respectfully to support us based on our track record and on our plans for the future. Thank you.
Of course, thank you also, General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Civic, for being here this evening and sharing your thoughts and making your pitch to the public for elections. And do have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And of course, thanks to those of you who